Well, today, writers, we're going to be talking about editing. We did the writing, we did the revising, we're done almost. We're going to talk about editing. So now you've got a beautiful story in your notebook. It has all kinds of revisions. You've added things, you've added details, you've zoomed in, you've worked on the beginning, you've worked on the ending. You made your characters have more problems, and you didn't solve those problems right away, but you solved them at the end. And so now you've got this messy thing. And you're like, well, I'm going to publish it, but it's kind of a mess. So today we're going to trade in this for this. I like a colored pen because most of my writing is done in pencil or black ink. And so when I do editing, I like to use something bright. Not a colored pencil, it's just too schmeary. Not a highlighter, uh, but a pen, a colored pen is really best. Or if you've got those skinny Crayola markers, those work really well too because they're really easy to see. And the point is, when you take your lovely handwritten draft and you start typing it later, any changes that we make now, we want to make when we type it. And so we need to make sure they're easy to see. So we're going to work on things like punctuation, spelling, capitalization. Wow, that's a long word. And making sure paragraphs are separated. So there's some things you need to remember. As far as punctuation goes, listen to this. Let's eat, Grandma. I just asked my grandma to come over for dinner because we're having pizza. And I love pizza and she loves pizza. So I said, let's eat, Grandma. Let's eat, comma, Grandma. Let's eat, Grandma. Let's eat, Grandma. No comma. So I'm talking to my bunch of cannibal friends and saying, hey, you hungry? There's my grandma. Let's eat her. Punctuation matters. It can save grandma's life. As far as word choice, did you know that this famous author, Mark Twain, once said, the difference between the right word and the almost right word is actually a large matter. It's the difference between the lightning and the lightning bug. Yeah, the difference between the lightning and the lightning bug. That's a big difference. So you need to make sure that you're using the right word, the right punctuation, the right paragraphs. So why do we use punctuation in paragraphs? We use those to help the reader. So paragraph really gives the reader a chance to pause. It's like at the end of a sentence where you use a period, or even in the middle of a sentence when you use a comma. It encourages the reader to pause, maybe take a breath if they're reading it out loud, to kind of refresh and then continue on. If your whole story is one long paragraph, the reader never gets a break. Their head is going to be spinning by the time they're done, and they're not really going to enjoy it. If you look in a work of fiction, in fact, I included some examples in the slideshow, but if you grab any book off the shelf, haha, how about the Serpent's Secret, you'll notice that there are a lot of paragraphs. In fact, paragraphs are often really short. In fiction, more paragraphs is better. Short paragraphs is better. Every time a new character talks, new paragraph. Even if one person just says, and then the next person speaks, that is a paragraph. Anytime you have a new setting, it's a new paragraph. Anytime you shift the focus to something else, anytime there's a new big idea introduced, new paragraph. If you're not sure if you should do a new paragraph. In fiction, that helps the reader uh, to follow along better. Long paragraphs, yeah, puts them to sleep. So don't do that. Why do we use proper spelling? Well, have you ever read a book? Have you ever read anything where one word was spelled wrong? I'm a teacher. I read a lot that has words spelled wrong. But when you read something that's finished, that's supposed to be published, and there's a misspelled word, you notice it and it bothers you. Even if you're a bad speller yourself, you'll notice it because you're used to reading proper spelling in your reading. But if you read a book and there was one misspelled word, you would see that word. You would notice that word and you'd find yourself wasting some of your precious time saying, huh, how come they didn't fix that? And you might even think that the writer is like, come on, not careful, or they didn't care enough to make sure it was perfect for you. Are you any different? You're the writer who's publishing your story. Shouldn't you be the one making sure that your writing is perfect for the reader? That there's no misspellings that could throw them off or distract them? That they get a break between sentences and paragraphs? That everything is organized clearly? That sentences begin with capitals and end with punctuation so they know where to start and where to stop? You don't only owe it to yourself and your grade, but you owe it to the reader to make sure the editing is done well. So, use a colored pen, something like that. Go through your whole story, fix the spelling. You might need to look it up on the dictionary or dictionary.com on your iPad. Make sure you capitalize the beginning of every sentence. You use punctuation at the end of every sentence. And then there's one more thing, and I made some notes about this in the slides. When one of your characters is talking, if the actual words that come out of their mouth are in your story, then you need to use punctuation marks called quotation marks. These little things. You need to put those around the exact words that they say. It's tricky to know exactly what to do with the commas and the periods and the question marks, and which things to include in quotation marks and which things don't. So there are a few tips in the slides, but what I would recommend doing is grab a book, any book that you have around that was published, and look for some sentences where somebody talks, and look at how the quotation marks work. Look at what they go around, look at where the comma goes, look at where the period, exclamation mark, or question mark goes, and copy that style. Because any book that was published was professionally edited, hopefully, and the editors, they know how to show punctuation properly. So if you ever don't know how to use punctuation, grab a published book, look at how they do it, and do it like they do it. That's how people learn how to do it. Nobody's born knowing how to use uh, quotation marks. We learn from seeing how others have done it before. So have fun with the editing, because this is your chance to just not think too much, but just go through and be a detail person. And then we're going to start publishing tomorrow, and that'll be your last chance. So fix everything today. You want the lightning bug or the lightning? I don't care which you choose, but they're not the same thing. So get it right. All right. We'll see you next time.